I was going to ask you where you spend most of your mental imagery or mental energy, where would you say that would be? In the past, right now, today, or in the future? Where would you spend most of your time when you think about things? Do you spend most time thinking about what could have been, what choices I should have done, maybe didn't do? You do what I'm going to do today, this is all where I'm at, or do you do what's going to possibly happen tomorrow? What's coming tomorrow? What's that, Cyrus?
Both.
I'm being heckled already. Both. All right. It's a talented man. There's a reason why Jesus implored us to stay in today, because he knows the ditches we can fall into when we think about tomorrow or we roll back into yesterday. If this survey is any indication of where we spend a lot of our time, it's in the past. According to this bulletin, the Social Psychology Bulletin, according to this psychologically bulletin, 90% of people have deep regret about their lives. 90% of people surveyed said they have deep regret about their lives. If that survey is correct, that means 9 out of 10 people in this room have deep regret about their life. But the good news is there is the 10th person in this room, and we're going to find him. Who is this person that doesn't have regret? All of us have regrets. We all do. I should have done this. I shouldn't have said that. I should have invested in that weird company named Apple 30 years ago. I should have done these things. But deep regret is a whole different thing. Deep regret, and it affects many, many people, is paralyzing and debilitating because there is nothing we can do about regret. It lives frozen in time. It's encased in amber, like fossilized dinosaur bones. We walk past it. We can't do anything with it. And oftentimes with regret, we're living in the circumstances our choices have made. So we're seeing it often. And we carry this. Our regrets shout at us. How could you have? Why didn't you? And there's nothing we can do about it. Let me read a letter that I came across. This is an actual letter. Listen to these words. I'm 27 years old and sat at home on a Friday night because I have no plans, hobbies, or friends. I am ashamed of myself and embarrassed of my life because this isn't where I wanted to be at this point. I don't have a well-paying job. I don't have friends. I am not in good physical shape, and there isn't anything I'm remotely good at. I don't enjoy anything, and I feel self-conscious and ashamed of myself on a regular basis. I struggle to stay focused because I think about the choices I've made and how my life has been downhill for the past 10 years. Everyone has passed me by. I'm so far behind that I'll never catch up. I haven't made any progress or lived at all. Others my age have normal, healthy lives. I am a nobody and a failure. I don't have any prospects for the future. I'm really disappointed with myself, and I'm deeply ashamed and regretful of my existence. Chip Kelly wrote that letter. It's a true story. 27 years old. People carry deep regret on them, and they have no idea what to do with it. And oftentimes, deep regret puts us in a place or a mindset of, this is not where I wanted to be at this point in my life. And it might not be all the way around our lives, but there are places in our lives where, like, I really didn't wish to be here. I didn't think I'd be here in my life. For example, I'm 54 years old, and I really didn't think I'd still be looking for jobs at theme parks. I didn't think that. Maybe you thought you'd have more money in the account at this point in your life, or that you'd be retired, or you wouldn't be at this job at this point in your life. Whatever it is, there are things that we think about that we're like, this isn't exactly where I want. There's great disappointment and regret linked to people nowadays. And when we put these two together, the regret of choices I've made and place where I feel that I should be, and we put those together, it leaves us with a debilitating feeling of hopelessness, often about our lives, and apathy. And if we were honest, and if most people were honest, if they would admit to this, I wonder if they would say, did I blow it? If only I had done this, hadn't done this, did I blow it in some area in my life? Would God have done more with me, different things with me? In the book of Judges is a lawless time in Israelite history. Joshua has just died, and all the people that went through all that with Joshua and Moses have died off. So now Israel is left without a leader. And as you know from history, Israel gets sideways pretty quick. So what happens is Israel goes their own way, they do their own thing, and then God, out of his great mercy, as he continues to do today, he sends someone to rescue them. There's called judges. So he would send Gideon, and they would be okay for a few years, but then they'd get themselves back in a ditch, and then send Deborah, and then they would get back in a ditch, and then they send Samson. Now, Samson was born to a woman that was barren, just like Samuel was to Hannah. And God gave them specific instructions about how to raise Samson. You are to feed him this. He is not supposed to cut his hair. This is the way he is supposed to live because he had a great call on his life. He is to free the Israelites from the violent and unruly grip of the Philistines. He gave him everything to do his job, and extraordinary strength as well. Everything was handed to Samson. There was one problem. Samson couldn't keep his hands off the ladies. For his 20 years, Samson over and over and over made bad choices. Choice after choice after choice. He slept with a prostitute here. He married a non-Israelite over here. And then finally he ends up with Delilah. And then at the end, he is chained with his eyes gouged out, being made fun of at the very end of his life. Do you think there was any point in time, at the very end especially, where Samson quietly to himself said, did I blow this? I had so much given to me. Do you think God was disappointed with Samson? Do you think that God had X, Y, and Z planned for Samson and he just didn't get there? Could have done so much more. You know that I used to say, and I used to believe this, I used to get up front and I would say this, I would say, I don't want to get to heaven and say, God, I don't want God to say to me, I had so much more planned for you, but because of your choices, I just couldn't get there. Now, the seed of that sounds righteous, right? There is something in that is good, in that I really want to please God. I want to get to where God is going with me. All that sounds okay, but that's not theologically correct. And it does God's character a disservice. Because what I'm saying in essence is God planned X, Y, and Z for me, but my choices nullified me getting to X, Y, and Z. What it's really saying is God didn't realize my choices were going to get me here, which means he is not God, right? If there was more planned for Samson, God would have planned more for Samson. He would have gotten him there. He is God, after all. Our choices are not bigger than God. They're not bigger than God. Listen to Psalm 139. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Think about that. There is no X, Y, and Z that's beyond what God has planned for us. So is God disappointed with Samson? Is God disappointed with us? No matter where we are in our lives, wherever you think you should be, is it possible God's disappointed with us? No. 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 I believe that our actions, they don't exist in a vacuum, right? They affect people. And I believe our actions affect God. Do not grieve the Holy Spirit by the way you live, Paul said. I believe that God is saddened by our choices. But listen carefully to this. I do not believe God is saddened by our choices because he wants us to go over there, or he's like a warehouse manager with a clipboard saying, I got to get these things done, and you are standing in the way. Not that at all. He is saddened as a parent is saddened when the child chooses things that are going to bring pain into their life. Don't choose these things. It's going to hurt you. That's the way God looks, I feel, at us. We have such a law-based view of God often, don't we? I grew up with a very authoritarian father, very strict father. So I had trouble separating that from God, because I would often look at God as being with me. And I just never was introduced to the ocean of grace until many, many years later. Our choices sadden God only because of the pain that we're bringing into our life because of our choices. But here's a revelation when I was looking at this that I've never had before, as many times as I've read Samson in the Bible about this. God had the original call on Samson's life was to free or to bring judgment upon the Philistines. He did that through Samson. In the midst of Samson's choices, he did what he said he was going to do. And God is doing that with you and I in the midst of our choices today. God is walking out what he believed and planned for you today. Despite our choices, he's still doing it. He is God. He is bigger than our choices. That's what frees us from regret. Yes, I know I made a bad choice here, but I give this to God, and I believe that God's still going to march forward in my life and do what he set out to do. Yes, I probably brought extra pain in my life that I didn't have to do. Samson was, after all, left blind and being made fun of at the end of his life. He was the one that went after Delilah. There are consequences for our choices, but God still did his work through Samson. That is freeing to know. Because so often we look at our choices and say, I've blown it. There are things I've been praying for that I want from God, and they haven't come. It's because of me. I know it is. It's exactly the song that Satan loves us to sing. It is you that put you where you are. And we forget that God is saying, I am working in you, and even through your choices, I'm doing it. If you were going to poison my relationship with Emma, my daughter, how would you do that? What's the first thing you would do? Well, first thing probably would do would be to convince her that she is a Baltimore Ravens fan. And that would probably be enough. Secondly, if you were going to poison Emma's relationship, our relationship together, you would lie to her about how I feel about her. You would lie to her about how much I love her. You would lie to her about how proud I am of her and how nothing would change about that. And how much that would deeply hurt me. And this is the lie, and this is the attempt that Satan is doing to us believers every single day. He is lying to us, or to God, or to us about how God feels about us. He is lying, and we are buying into it. We are buying that he is disgusted with us, displeased with us, frustrated with us, and it's simply not true. It is not true. Look at this verse in Ephesians. Because of Christ and our faith in him, we can now come fearlessly into God's presence, assured of his glad welcome. Fearlessly into his presence, assured of his glad welcome. And you will see before and after, there is nothing tied to that verse. If only, if they keep these. No. Because of Jesus, you can now come before God fearlessly and with great joy. Listen to this verse in Luke, and it says this, and the Holy Spirit descended on him like a dove, and a voice from heaven said, you are my dearly loved Son, and you bring me great joy. He was talking to Jesus in that moment, but do you think that applies to us? You bring me great joy. I think it does. Look at Galatians 4:7. It says this, now you are no longer a slave, but God's own child. And since you are his child, Everything he has belongs to you. So not only are we heirs to all the promises, we are heirs, we are recipients of God's vast love because of Jesus, poured out on us. So then we can say, Brian is my dearly loved son, and Brian brings me great joy. Joey brings me great joy. Maggie brings me great joy. This is the very thing that Satan wants to separate us from, believing that that's true. The survey on regrets is surprising in that people are most regretful not about things that they have done, believe it or not, but things that they haven't done. That's where most people's regret lies. I wish I would have done something. Isn't that strange? You would think the regret for the action would be more because I can't take that back. But apparently it lies more with, I wish I would have stepped out. So I ask us this morning, what are you not doing that you feel the Lord is asking you to do? And how can we avoid adding yet another regret into the amber, into the frozen in time? If we were going to measure success in the Christian life with God, what does that look like? What is that? You think that's attendance in church? Inviting people to church? Do you think that's helping the old lady across the street, saving the owls? What is success? All these things are good things, but really, what is success with God? Do you really know what it is? It's obedience. If you love me, you will obey me. And when we tie that to God's great character of goodness, that statement doesn't look like a dictator of some kind. It's tied to his good character. He's not going to take me anywhere that's going to be somewhere he's not going to bless me and all things work together for good. He's going to lead me somewhere good. He wants to lead me somewhere good. Listen to this verse in 1 John. And how can we be sure that we belong to him? By looking within ourselves. Are we really trying to do what he wants us to do? Someone may say, I am a Christian, I'm on my way to heaven, I belong to Christ. But if he doesn't do what Christ tells him to do, he is a liar. Whew, yikes. Friends, Jesus wants to lead us somewhere good. But how often are we saying no? For whatever reason. I had this thought a little while ago, thinking that I wonder if people in heaven, once they get to heaven, they see the amazing power of God in all of its glory. They see the angels. They see all that's expressed in Revelations 4, the sea of glass, the lightning and the thunder. They see it all. And they look down at us living and they're like, you got to reach more. You got to do more. It's all here. Why are we afraid? Look at these. Look at this power. Why are we not doing more? You would think that they'd be yelling down at us, it's all here. It's true. He's powerful. But yet down below, we so often circumvent everything by our fears of everything. We so often don't step out when God is asking us to step out. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. Listen to this Daniel Pink quote. I think we plan too much and act too little. Sometimes we don't realize that action is a form of knowing, that we can figure stuff out by doing it. That's what YouTube's for. How do I fix this? I don't know. Let's see. I think we plan too much and act too little. I think God would like a little more impulsivity with his children, in that I think God wants me to go talk to that person. Yeah. And the moment's gone. Instead of saying, okay, let's just see what happens. There was a very famous missionary years and years ago who really, really, really felt God was calling him to go to this foreign country. I don't remember where it was. He didn't have the money, but he felt God calling him so strongly. His friends told him, I don't think this is right. His wife wasn't even sure, but he said, I believe this is true. He didn't have the money. Somebody gave him 10 pounds. And with that 10 pounds, he booked passage to this place. Didn't even have any money, nothing else. He went. And this man lived his life over there and saved souls, and but he didn't let money stand in the way. This is not a statement against getting counseling, because counseling is very wise, but the point is, he felt God saying something, and he wouldn't let the world tell him no. He said yes. How many people that have not gone have looked back and say, I just wish I would have done it. I would have done it. I believe with every day, we're getting closer and closer, obviously, to Jesus' return. But we're getting closer and closer to a time where Christians will no longer be allowed to sit on the fence any longer. God's going to call people to action, and those that belong need to get in the way, get on the horse and get going with God, saying yes. And God will empower us in these last days. But we need to say yes to this.